everybody's now showing up. Okay, okay, this is the July, March Aero Club safety meeting, and I'm Roger Mann, and I'm the safety officer, and Bob Pierce is the manager over here, and let's see, Garrett, where'd you go? There you are. Is that, yeah, I can't see you without my glasses. Anyhow, one of our other instructors, I don't know where John is. I don't see John Law. We've got, and then we got Randy Ball, who is the T-34 instructor, which I lost him, wherever he's sitting. Okay, there he is. And I guess that's all there is right now as far as those people. And tonight, we're going to go quickly as we can. Because I watched the last meeting, I guess you guys got out of here fairly early, I guess. I don't know. Was it? Oh, okay. It just looked like, you know, anytime I'm not conducting the meeting, it seems like you get out early. So I was in Ireland, so I was having fun there. And so actually, I was still in bed when you were having the meeting, because it's early in the morning there right now. Okay, for those of you who have not been to meetings, we have an agenda, and we just kind of go through the agenda, and hopefully you don't miss anything. The thing about this meeting, it's not a formal meeting. If you need to say something or want to say something at any time, you can do so. We've got in the agenda, we've got a couple of places in there where if you want to say something, you can stand up and do that. Okay, new people. Do we have any new people? Since I don't have my glasses on, I can't see anybody. Who's never been to this meeting before?
Yeah, I think it starts with an L.
L, yeah. Oh, yeah? Stand up and introduce. Yes, you do. You're not going to get away with it.
I'm on camera too. I didn't sign up for this. I'm Laura. Just got off active duty. I'm a reservist now at the 452nd Air Control Plant across the street. Private pilot, working on my district meeting.
All right. Welcome to the Aero Club. We need now, see, you can meet the other ladies here too, that we got in the Aero Club. We really do have other ladies in the Aero Club, although they're not all here, but, okay. Anybody that's gotten a new pilot rating, and this also includes solo.
I picked up a Falcon 10 second in command rating yesterday, so.
All right. Good. Okay, anybody else? Anybody, you know?
Power shut off, Tom.
Has anybody gotten in trouble? FAA got their license taken away? Oh, it did, okay. Yeah, that shuts off about every. Okay, no, nothing going on now. This includes Air Force too, and airlines or any of that kind of stuff too. Yeah. Okay, experiences. This is where you get to tell your story. Anything that has happened to you guys that might be interesting in flying. Again, it does not have to be just Aero Club. It can be anything. I know George always has something.
I want to tell you what it takes to get a second in command rating. You got to have somebody brave enough to let you take their Falcon 10 out and do 3 stop-and-go landings. And that's all they did. They said, lined me up on the runway and said, take it off, come around and land it 3 times. And that's it. And I'm going, holy crap. And it worked.
Did you have butterflies in your stomach?
Pardon me?
Did you have butterflies in
No
your
butterflies, I was too scared to have butterflies.
Oh,
There's a couple of landing lights taken out at Fallbrook, so we come over there and watch out for that crosswind.
okay.
Nobody heard it.
All right. Okay, I suppose we have to have the Aero Club manager talk to us. And we're gonna cover real quick on the SOPs. This one's a little more important because it answers one of the questions on the closed book exam. And then we're gonna talk about reducing the risk of mid-air collisions in VFR practice areas. This is something that our wing safety officer might be able to help us out a little bit on too, if he wants to. Because a lot of this material I got out of their book, which is the local, which is a mid-air collision pamphlet that is produced by wing safety here. And it's an excellent book. I have one sitting on my desk down at the office, if anybody wants to look at it. Okay, Bob. Don't take too long.
And you're all done. Yes, You can look at this.
Is that a tote?
It's a piece of paper. No, just, I want you to look at the anode and the cathode. You gotta look at this down here. Tell me what's wrong with it. These are the worst spark plugs I've ever seen. When you see the center of it melted and bent, you know that the aircraft's been running awful lean. One of the worst things we can do with an aircraft. So please, please, even on the ground, don't lean it out too much, just enough to keep the plugs clean. But these things got so hot that they're crooked like this. And they're pretty pathetic. And that came out of the 182. So be aware, in climb outs and what have you, rich mixture only. Especially what do we do with the rich mixture? We're keeping the cylinders cool by adding more fuel, which is a cooling agent, and we want to increase our speeds. So if you see the oil temperature and the CHT going up or running on the high side, that's what we want to do. That's a known fact. I want to talk about cleaning aircraft. We have individuals, I'm not going to name anything at this particular time. I've already sent out an email, but we're cleaning the leading edges of the wings, or we're going to clean the windscreen itself, but we forget about the rest of the airplane. It's a club, and I need everybody's help to take and pitch in and help try and clean the airplane. So when you're done, think about the next guy that's going to go into it. It's not the next person's responsibility to make sure that the windshield is clean, leading edges are clean, or in a T-34, we've got a clean belly. Now, on 5.7, we did have an oil leak. And those cylinder head covers have been changed to the new silicone seals, and we anticipate that that's going to stop all the leaks versus the paper gaskets that we had in there. So 5.7 has actually been corrected in regards to that maintenance item. 5.7 and 5.5 both just had completed their PDOT static check, so we got 2 more aircrafts out of the way. The next one is 15 Foxtrot. We're going to take and change out the altimeter. I didn't realize that maintenance this morning wanted to work on that thing, otherwise we would have put it down, we would have had that completed, and then maybe tried to squeeze that in at the end of the week, or at least till next week. So 15 Foxtrot, we have the altimeter sitting in the maintenance office, and as soon as that's changed out, we'll go back to Chino and have that aircraft recertified for IFR. So that gives basically every aircraft that we have has been now recertified for our PDOT static and for IFR flight. And those airplanes are the 182, 03 November, and 15 Foxtrot. And we have 234 Whiskey Papa. So those 4 airplanes are the only ones that are capable for IFR flight. Just remember that. Everything else is VFR in this airplane, in the Aero Club. I advertised out last week flyaway for this coming Saturday. I got 1 response. Anybody interested in a flyaway this Saturday? It's a great time for instructors to take and put a couple students in the aircraft or in another aircraft, take them across the LA basin. The recommendation is go back to Camarillo. I can't take anybody. My engine's out of my airplane. for an overhaul, so whether I can get a ride with somebody or just come out and get you started, that's something else. So right now, Tyler Trickey, the T-34 is the only one that's responded. Anybody else interested for Saturday? I got one ride along.
I'll send you an email.
Yeah, one ride along. So nobody else, it looks like we're gonna have a cancellation, but we'll try and do the best we can. There are 2 aircraft that are scheduled for flight, and all we ask that you do is chip in for the gas. I want to talk about finances and our dilemma here with General Muncie. I have been directed to make a change to the Aero Club, but I can't do much in regards to making changes unless I get the support from the Aero Club itself. And that there's 3 things that I'm looking at in regards to what we have to do. To change course, we're going to need to fly more to keep the Aero Club open. We're going to need more students. And we're going to need recommendations from the Aero Club members themselves on how we can take and improve ourselves to keep the club going. Last month it was a $5,600 loss. The previous month was a $126 gain. In the last rolling 12 months, we're about $30,000 in the hole. Under the present conditions, and we understand that there's been a lot of maintenance issues in regards to loss of income because of much of the aircraft have been down for repairs. It takes money also to repair, and that's what I've been arguing, is that once we get the aircraft, we'll take and start flying more. So if you haven't been flying and you think you can stay current by flying 1 hour a month, it doesn't really work that well in regards to staying current. I think any instructor or any FAA designated pilot examiner, if you just fly once a month, can take and ground you because you're not in compliance with something. I'm just giving you an example. There's always something that one can find that you're very weak in and you're marginal in. So my key here is try and fly twice a month if you can. If you can fly 4 hours a month, that's even better. I try and fly 4, that's only 48 hours a year, and I have a hard time staying current myself. Again, I'm going to ask for the members to take and come back and give Roger and I some indications of what you'd like to see changes made, or how changes should be made, or what we can do to increase our flying experiences here within the Aero Club. Under the present situation, it's going to be a die-in partnership with the Aero Club if we can't make a turnaround somewhere. And I'm sure that General Ball back there will even concur.
Did he give you a limit? Did he give you a time frame? Did he give you a drop
He
dead
likes to
date?
see immediate time changes. Yeah, I understand.
What, you got 30 days, 60 days, 90 days?
He hasn't given me a time frame, but he wants to start seeing some changes. So our
When's your
income,
next meeting with him?
our income last month was up about $3,000.
Yeah, we were way up on
We're up.
income, but.
Our break even is
money
around
was-
15,000 to 16,000,
Yeah,
but when we're down to 11 and 12, like during the winter months, it's a losing battle for us.
So when's your next meeting with the general?
It's gonna be the end of August.
That's your deadline.
So we gotta either make a change this month or show an improvement next month,
well, this
otherwise.
month we're doing what we're doing really good right now. If we just keep up the flying like we've been doing, we'll get up there again. And this time we haven't spent as much money on maintenance, so.
Yeah, our cost last month, 5/7, we spent over $2,000 just in 5/7. So what did we change out? 5/7 ended up with new rudder cables because they were frayed and corroded. We ended up with a new starter because we had some issues there. And the starter drive, which is the angle drive for the starter, failed. And a piece of the spring fell into the crankcase. Luckily, we didn't have to take and pull the engine out and pull the pan off. They were able to take and fish it out with a magnet. And even using a borescope, they had a hard time looking at it, even through new oil that was in the pan. So the spring was about 3/16 of an inch thick. In width, I should say, and 1/8 of an inch in thickness, and it was about 2 inches long in a circled arc, which was about 1.5 inches in diameter. So it was a pretty large piece of spring that wound up tight, and when this thing winds up, it's supposed to kick the starter out of engagement with the clutch that's in there, and evidently it got real tight and it did break. So when you take tempered steel and you bend it, you know that it got pretty tight in there. I was gonna talk a little bit about the new FAA rules for medical on third class. So I left my material in the office, unfortunately. So go back on aopa.org, and review the new rules for the third class. The FAA has not taken and written any new rules to explain some of the issues on this thing, but they're looking at third class being good for a possibility of 10 years. There's a lot of other things. You won't be able to fly anything over 6,000 pounds, 6 passengers. Dick, you recall some of the other stuff that was on that little thing?
Yeah, actually, it's a lot more liberal than what they were expecting. So,
Yeah.
I mean, you can fly IFR, you can fly night.
6 passengers.
But, yeah, it's 6 passengers and.
Is maximum on
Yeah.
the aircraft size.
So.
6,000 pounds.
It's really very lenient.
Yeah. So go back and review it, and even leniency in all those individuals who are having difficulty in getting their FAA third-class medical. Don't forget the Aero Club requires a third-class medical. So we're trying to work with a few people in regards to helping them out. But it looks like if you held a third class and you're now having issues, there's a good possibility that you can maintain that third class. Excuse me, I'm all finished, thank you.
Hey, thank you, Bob. Okay, I just want to bring up a couple of things too, as far as announcements. Okay, for those of you who are familiar with the Wings program, we are going to start doing that here with these safety meetings. And with help of Rich Martindale, who's very familiar with it. He's also one of the Wings people that can teach the Wings program. But we're going to try to do, everything we do here fulfills the requirements for Wings, and where you can, so it can be counting towards your Wings points. And you can get, at least for here, you can get a half a point from here, and that helps, you to be able to do that. For those of you that do attend, some of the Wings programs out, with the FAA in the local area, there's several of them that are being offered, like right now, the next couple of months. And with us adding that to it, that'll really be a good plus. So we don't just be meeting just only for the Aero Club and fulfilling that square, but you can also be fulfilling that other square with the FAA. We'll try to get it going as soon as I can, and with lots of help with Rich and also with some other people, we can get going on something like that. Any questions? Yeah.
Yeah, how are you gonna record the minutes? Do I record?
Well, that's all done through, we do
Or
it
you
through,
do that?
yeah, that's all done, and Rich showed me today, as a matter of fact, how to do that. And it's actually pretty straightforward. We do have to publish it and let people know that the meeting is here, and so people can come and attend it. So it'll, we can put restrictions, of course, on it, let people know it's an Air Force base, and, unless you got some way of, getting on the base, it's gonna be hard to get here. But there's some things, we have to iron out on it, but it's you don't have to worry about that. I mean, that's something that's on our side. So, anybody else?
Basically, what it entails is a safety meeting, certified safety meeting, and 4 hours of instruction, which you can accommodate. When you get that, you used to fill out the card, mail it to the FAA, and that sets you up for the beginning of the system.
That's not the way it works anymore.
I understand that.
This safety meeting constitutes a safety meeting, and you can get a half a credit of Wings for it.
Okay, Bill, did you have anything that you wanted to talk about? Nope. Okay. Lieutenant Colonel Edelman back there is the wing safety officer for the 452nd. And if anybody has questions, ask him. He's there to answer them. I'm sorry I volunteered you that, but we do want to take advantage. Okay, anybody else? Okay, we're going to talk about the SOPs. What I do is I kind of cover paragraph by paragraph. This one's a little bit longer than normal. The first one is, of course, the severe weather alternate airports. Sometimes some of you guys will get caught out there with strong crosswinds, especially when the Santa Anas come up. I know myself, I've gotten caught out there coming back from across country and the Santa Ana winds came up. And so there are some, there are limitations on this airplane and also some other things. Anything that has to do with where you can't get the airplane back here. We already had one guy in the club here leave an airplane down in Laredo Springs for what he thought was a mechanical problem. It turned out to be, it was more of a operator's error, but still, I was glad to see that he made the right decision. He stayed there in RON overnight to leave the next morning, and he got the airplane back. There are certain places, of course, according to the SOPs, where they, if you're idealistically, you could, we would rather you go in places like Riverside, Chino, French Valley, Hemet, those places. But depending on the situation, you can just about land anywhere where you feel comfortable, okay? That's the big thing. All we ask is that you let us know. That's, don't sit there and whatever you do, don't just walk away and leave the airplane either. Make some kind of arrangements to at least be able to get the airplane tied down and chocked at minimum. Whether there be something like the fixed base operator there or whatever. But whatever you do, if you feel uncomfortable about what's going on to get the airplane back here to March Field, don't take any unnecessary chances. Land someplace and get the plane on the ground, especially if it has to do with weather and winds and that type of thing. And we also have had a couple of mechanical problems with the airplane. We had one guy last year leave the airplane up at Camarillo. But again, he didn't just leave it. He made sure it was tied down and everything. He got a hold of Bob at home and made arrangements as to what to do. Actually, Bob you ended up flying up your airplane and picking him up, didn't you? Yeah, Scott. So that's just something to kind of let you know. You don't get a home-itis if you feel that there's something not right about getting back in here, and just land the airplane someplace and just be safe about it.
If you can't get a hold of anybody in the office,
Screenshot.
Roger or I, you can always call base operations, because base operations has all of our telephone numbers and emergency numbers. Notify them that, can you notify someone in the Aero Club that will be RON and at this airport, period. And that number is 655-4404, the same one you use for your flight plan. That's a 24-hour phone that's always manned.
Okay, any questions on this one?
Or close.
Okay, next one. Under Know Your SOPs is loss of communications procedures. For many of you that's taken the closed book exam, this question is on the closed book exam. If you lose comm, you're to squawk 7600 and then enter the airspace from the east at 2200 feet, which of course is our pattern altitude. Observe the traffic flow. If it looks like, and of course if you know what the winds are, if there's any way that you've heard the winds or whatever, you know, go appropriate what the winds are or what the traffic is, and fly down runway 30 and rock your wings and watch for the control tower on the light signals. Hopefully you will have either those memorized or you got a cheat sheet that shows those. There are, so just one of the things that John brought up last safety meeting was that if you get in this situation, fly close enough to the tower so that they know who you are. Our T-41s and the T-34s are pretty obvious, you know, I mean, if it'd have to be somebody new up in the tower that wouldn't have a clue what's going on.
Yeah, we executed those procedures exactly as written.
Yeah,
And John's comment was because ATC gave him a debrief that they didn't see us.
didn't see,
But we flew right down runway 30, rocking the wing.
yeah,
And the debrief was, well, we didn't fly close enough to the tower. Yeah, that's kind of hogwash.
yeah, yeah, that's interesting, cause I mean,
Well, how, would they want us flying right by the window?
yeah, well,
Gotta rattle them, but.
yeah. No, you don't wanna be flying,
Yeah.
whatever you do, don't fly over the top of the C-17s out there, on the KC-135. But, yeah, it's kind of, as old Murph used to say, he used to work in the tower up there, and he used to say, well, it's ridiculous, I mean, you just see the airplane out there, and you know it's an Aero Club airplane, you know, and it's, because we're very distinctive in our colors. And so, that was kind of seemed kind of funny. But if they have problems, you know, or not giving you clearance to land or whatever, you know, at the very least, if, I always hesitate to say this, but at the very least, especially if you got a passenger or somebody or another pilot with you, have them try to call them on the phone at the very least, you know, which is one of the alternatives that we have today if you lose comm. But if you're in a T-34, you probably can't hear anything anyhow, so. Actually, at any of the airplanes. Any questions on this one here? We've actually have used this periodically over the years. Malcolm Campbell had to use it last year, do the same thing, because he lost comm. I don't remember which T-34 he was in, but it does work as long as you got the people in the tower that's on our side. We all know that sometimes we get somebody up there that doesn't seem to quite understand what the procedures are with the Aero Club and seem to do something with us that we've never had done before. But, you know, that's something that just happens, you know, and you can't, you know, predict that. Just do what you know the procedure says to do. As long as you stick to that, you know, they can't hang you for it or do anything. You might get jacked up out on the flight lane someplace, but, which is a fun to have it happen to you at least once. So, okay,
Roger.
Roger.
That's Roger.
Roger,
Let's say.
over.
Roger.
Yeah,
Welcome.
yes,
Not written here, but really common sense. There's nothing that precludes you from landing at Hemet or
yeah,
French Valley, getting on the telephone and pre-coordinating an arrival with towers so they know you're coming.
yeah. Which takes us back to what the other one, what I was talking about earlier. If you feel uncomfortable, if you lost comm and you feel uncomfortable about flying into Class C airspace, just land and do just like what Rich is talking about, and make a phone call.
Well, you could probably make your phone call east of the field too,
From the plane.
Yeah,
from the plane.
from the
Well,
plane.
that, like you said, in the T-34, that's kind of tough
Yeah.
to do with the noise level.
Noise level is pretty high in that.
Yeah, just,
Now, if you're flying in your jet, that's different. That's pretty quiet, right?
Navy brief, Squawk 77, brief on guard. So.
Yeah, Yeah. Okay. What I'm gonna cover real quick tonight, again, these safety meetings are not all inclusive. They are to make you aware of situations that can come up, when you're flying airplanes. One of those is when we fly from here to the training areas. We all do it, the T-34s, student training, just going up and just getting practice in any of the airplanes that keep current in the airplanes. And for the most part, you know, it's usually pretty uneventful. You go up there and you do your thing and you fly. Of course, I can't say it's uneventful for you guys in the T-34 because you're flying all this close formation. That's a little more, pucker factor is a little higher on that. But it's, you know, we don't think too much about it. We go out and it's pretty routine and then we come back and go home. There are things though that can happen. And since Southern California seems to be a favorite place for pilots and all kinds of people, and not even airplanes and pilots, sometimes we have unmanned vehicles flying around out there nowadays. So that's an addition to a lot of this. Basically what this is up here, for those of you that might be reading ahead on it, it's just, it's a Cessna 182, or no, it's a Piper PA-32R300, which I think that's a Saratoga, isn't it? I think it is. And in 71MC, Eurocopter. This was in New York, and the quick story is that they were under ATC control, and but they were BFR, and they weren't flying IFR or anything like that. And to make a long story short, basically what happened is that the helicopter and the Saratoga smacked into each other and everybody died. 3 passengers on the helicopter and 2 passengers on the Saratoga. And the final NTSB report was that one, neither of the pilots in the helicopter or the airplane took advantage of the equipment they had on the airplane to help avoid other aircraft. And number 2, they obviously did not use flight following or anything like that. They were in contact with ATC, but they were not using what tools to use to keep from running into each other. The second finding was ATC controller. Someday, if any of you guys want to hear it, I'll play it for you back at the office. It's rather sobering. The ATC controller did his job just like we always hear about, except for he kept talking to a lady who was another ATC controller by phone, and it just happened to be that they were right in the middle of a conversation that had nothing to do with flying whatsoever, and they were both laughing and joking around, and you could hear in the background the November 7-1 MC, Mike Charlie, calling, and the guy answered back, told him to go a certain heading, and then he corrected himself, and they corrected everything, so that was fine. But that was a finding by NTSB that he was being distracted by talking in an inappropriate telephone call with another ATC controller. Okay, that's under ATC, all right? Okay, this is a Cessna 152 with a certified flight instructor in the right seat and the student in the left seat. Separate story completely. for landing in VFR conditions. And the Cessna 152 was number 2 to land behind a 182. For those of you who are in the Civil Air Patrol, the 182 was a Civil Air Patrol airplane on a mission. And they were both landing. The air traffic control tower asked the 152 pilot if they had the landing traffic, which was the 182. They said they didn't. No, they said, the CFI said they did, okay. However, the radar pilot data and radio communications from ATCT revealed that the Cessna 152 joined final approach slightly behind and above the 182. So, the two airplanes continued to the runway, and the control tower said to the 152 to make a right 360, okay? However, the instructor did see, I think it was the tail, is that what it said? The nose, no, he saw the nose of the Cessna 182 appear under the nose of his airplane. They turned left instead of right. Well, that caused the left wing to hit the tail or the rudder of the 182. Fortunately, nobody died, planes didn't crash, they got the airplanes on the ground, but here's a classic case of the 180 or the 152 pilot not doing what ATC says. Okay? All right. Story number 3. Some of you may know about this one. Cessna 310 and a Cessna 152. This is at Corona Airport. And I think this was, I can't remember what year it was, just a few years back, wasn't that long ago. The Cessna 152 apparently was getting ready to land at Corona Airport. At the time, I guess they were doing some runway construction on the runway, and he was waiting for them to clear the runway so he could land. He was out there at traffic pattern altitude, and this 310 was coming from Orange County, coming in to go into Riverside Airport. Well, he comes in and he comes down at a very fast rate and comes down at the same pattern altitude as this 152. The 152 was circling around like this, and this 310 came up, and the right wing contacted the 152's left main landing gear strut and the wing. And from, you can imagine probably what happened with the force. They, both wings probably buckled, and both airplanes went down into the ground. This is the one where the engine, and I'm not sure if it was the engine off the 310, that came and fell through the roof of one of the, was it a car dealer? I think it was a car dealer. This poor guy sitting in the middle of a building like this with the engine coming down, and it killed this guy on the ground. And it was a very, very sad situation. The accident itself was sad, but the fact that this guy, sitting in his office in the middle of a great big huge building, it's one of these big warehouse type buildings, I guess, and it just happened to land right in his office and killed him. Long story short, probable cause of that Corona accident: the failure of both pilots to maintain adequate visual lookout and to see and avoid other airplanes. And there's also some sub things to that, one of which was the 310, why did he come in so low in the first place? Because if he was going to Riverside Airport, he should have just stayed high. Corona Airport is not that close to Riverside to have to get down that fast and that slow. And so, Okay, mid-airs and VFR practice. Between 2001 and 2005, it showed 11 mid-air collisions occurred involving aircraft operating to and from practice areas. We as an Aero club, majority of our flights are in and around many other airports, as I will show you here in a couple of minutes. We have to watch out for that. Instructional flights, which is strictly just student instructor, between 2002 and 2011, advanced training flights, okay, this is the key word, advanced training flights, okay, not necessarily somebody getting their private pilot's license, but these were training flights like getting their, everything from instrument rating to commercial ratings and that type of thing. So these guys that were students and instructors were high-time pilots. They weren't that low. All fatal, including between two training airplanes. There were two of them fatal and on student solos and 3 fatal during primary dual lessons. Unlike fixed-wing general aviation, adverse weather had nothing to do with it. As a matter of fact, adverse weather, so far as I know, from all I read, has nothing to do with any of these kind of accidents that take place, because usually in the T-34s or any of our airplanes, the students, generally speaking, fly in good weather. And so that kind of thing doesn't usually take place. So, all these things happen with clear, severe VFR. Southern California, of course, is a very, 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 very high traffic area. I think it's a good thing that we have students learning here in Southern California for the simple fact that if they move anywhere else, it's all downhill as far as traffic. I mean, it's better, okay? So it does sharpen your skills, I think, if you get your license here. Because when you go anywhere else, you're going to be sharp. You're going to stay on top of it. John?
Brandon, did you have a close call with Lake Matthews with the Seminole?
Yeah.
Out of ATPs in Riverside? What was the deal? Were they not on the training frequency?
Well, I was coming from the ocean, flying back towards Redlands. So I came up over the mountains, about 5,500. Called. I was on Lake Elsinore advisory. Let them know I was just north of the field. And I switched over to Lake Matthews, and I was south of them, going to be heading over the east side. And at 55, and I had a passenger backside. Next time though, we look. I think he said something, or I was having a look in the plane. I see a twin just close to this wall, just diving down. And I look, I was like, oh, we were both at 55. He was heading southeast, and I was heading northeast. And we're both at 55. So I ended up I rated up Lake Matthews, somebody else in pattern, and it was just south of it. And I called ATP, and I made a report. They called me back, and they got my story, what happened. They talked to the instructor, then they called me back. And they apparently were on flight following with ATC, coming from, I think, Long Beach going down to San Diego. So apparently, whoever they were on flight following with told them last minute make a descending right turn. And I've done a lot of flight following. That's one time I haven't, because I was just going real quick. But I've heard several times like planes like within a mile make immediate deviation. And I've seen them like, oh, they're way back there, but nothing that close. So usually I have the Xeon inside my cockpit, and I usually turn on. That time I didn't. So, but I was on the common frequencies like Elsinore and like Matthews. Keep an eye out, but I've never seen anyone come close on the side.
Well,
It wasn't an Aero Club airplane.
Yeah, question.
yeah,
Would you say you have a Zion?
The Xeon?
Does that show TCAS, or does it have ADS information from other aircraft?
It's other, yeah.
It's more like TCAS, it shows you up or down.
Oh,
Yeah, the distance and above or below.
okay.
yeah, thank you for sharing that. In no way is this supposed to scare you, okay?
Too late.
But it is supposed to make you be more situationally aware. That's what Air Force teaches that. Boy, they ground it in your head. Situationally aware. Okay, know your personal limitations. Learn as much as possible about the airspace that you're flying in, and know the characteristics of your airplane. What can it do? Some of you guys who've flown the T-34 for a long time know what you can do with that airplane. Despite the fact that there's certain limitations that we have club-wise on that airplane, if it takes having to go past that to get yourself out of a situation, then do it. Same goes for any of our airplanes. It's better to do something with the airplane that you normally wouldn't do than to end up running into somebody and regretting that.
Did you, I'm sorry, I might have missed it. It looked like most of those were the classic low wing interacting with the high wing airplane.
Yeah, a good portion of them were, well, except for the helicopter one. I mean, that one there, I don't know what the situation was. Yeah.
He's got funny wings.
Yeah, he's got the funny wings, yeah, the ones that fly off whenever you look at them wrong. Okay, this is just a real quick synopsis of what most mid-airs involve. Most mid-airs are pleasure flights with no flight plan. Nearly all mid-airs occur VFR, which we talked about already. The majority of mid-airs were the result of a faster aircraft overtaking and hitting the slower aircraft. When I was flying, when I did Lake Matthews a few times, there was other airplanes that were below me. And I know most of you could have, can testify that. They're either higher or lower, and oftentimes you got airplanes out there that do some pretty fast moving compared to our airplanes, even the T-34s. So that's something you need to be really, really cognizant of. No pilot is immune. It can happen to anybody. Ranges from 15,000-hour veterans to solo flights. The vast majority of the mid-air occur in airports below 3,000 feet. En-route mid-airs occur below 8,000 feet within 25 miles of the airport. And flight instructors were on board one of the aircrafts in a 37% of the mid-airs. Okay, so flight instructors were in 37% of the mid-airs. I know the instructor's supposed to watch the student, and I know that the student is scared to death and probably trying to do everything he can to watch flying the airplane. But the instructor needs to be also looking outside. So does the student. Because for those of you, Garrett, who've let your students go solo, hopefully they have gotten grounded into their head that they need to be looking outside the cockpit too. And I want to congratulate how Garrett is really pumping out the solo students. He's really gotten these guys going. So that's, you're doing a good job, Garrett.
Roger,
Yeah,
number A up there,
yeah,
is the biggest misconception that I deal with when I talk to recorders.
yeah,
A flight plan has absolutely nothing to do
Right.
with preventing mid-airs.
Yeah.
It may be statistically true,
yeah, yeah.
but the important thing is that you're getting flight following and talking to somebody with an extra set of eyes.
Exactly.
All a flight
yeah,
plan is insurance for search and rescue.
Exactly,
So don't
yeah,
connect that with preventing mid-airs.
yeah. The only reason why it's up there, because it was there. But I 100% agree with you, totally, yeah. I've always have said that. Every time they have that in every single accident report.
Well, yeah, and they didn't follow a flight plan, so that's why they
So
hit
that's
each
why
other.
they hit each other, yeah. Yes, I fully agree with you. Okay, mitigation, whatever how you say that. How do you keep it from happening? Plan ahead, check NOTAMs, make sure you check, here, you get your NOTAMs off the computer, and you can check them and read through them. It doesn't help, I mean, it hurt, what am I trying to say? It doesn't hurt to just pay attention to what's going on around you, because as soon as you take off and the tower gives you change of frequency, you might want to tune in immediately to where the area you are going to and just listen up. As a matter of fact, that really would be a very good idea, especially Lake Matthews. See and avoid, scan the airspace ahead and to side to side. Clear before you do any maneuvers. Well, I know our instructors are teaching that. I know they are, okay? Communicate, broadcast where you're at, what you're doing, and do it in the blind, even though somebody may not be answering back. Tune in into the frequency that's over Lake Matthews or the training area on the east side, and just tune in and announce who you are, what you are, and don't forget to tell them what color your airplane is too. Squawk the transponder. Be seen, turn on any collision light, as long as it's working. And then some practical, which I just gave basically through that list, was announce all entries and exits. Give your position. Lake Matthew below 4,500 is 123.5. Paris jump zone, Homeland Security VOR area, below 18,000 feet is 122.775. Or SoCal 134.0. Okay, I was going to say something about Homeland VOR, but I won't right now. Here's the chart. Everybody knows what this is. There's March right there in the middle. You got Lake Matthews to the left, and you got over on the right, you got Hemet down to the lower right. And we also have the training area, which, let me show you, it should be right about there. The east training area and west training area, all these little charts that you're seeing up there should be in your checklist. Okay? These right here that I'm showing to you. And also the March traffic pattern. And you can see right there how the traffic pattern should be. And sometimes it can be modified by your instructor or by the tower. Many times there will be a C-17 doing their combat maneuvers here, and you may be over on the west traffic area, and they may make you go all the way around to the east side. To keep away from the C-17 doing its diving down, to approach.
Don't forget though, that the checklist mapping may not be updated because of printing costs. So the only thing that's gonna be current is the tack chart.
Oh yeah, well you never use this for, you just use it as a reference, but you always use, your tack chart or your, you can use approach plate too, but you always use that. These are the different airports that use Lake Matthews and sometimes the east training area, but usually Lake Matthews. You got Riverside, you have French Valley, Paris Valley, I'm not too, yeah, that's where the jumpers are. And then of course, Flybob. So you got those airports which kind of converge onto Lake Matthews, but sometimes over at the east side too. There's the Paris jump zone. Watch out for that area. Stay away from it totally. Just stay away from there. Don't even head that direction, unless you're, you know, you're able to climb up a high altitude. If you're flying IFR and you're doing the departure, the Skies departure out of here, then, I think it's still Skies, and they have you climbing up, okay, that's one thing. But, one of the things that you realize too is that don't always trust the tower to ever tell you that the Paris jump zone is operative. They may not tell you that. So just assume that the Paris jump zone is always on, always, just assume that.
At the last ops meeting, there was a big discussion between those people who operate out of Paris and March Air Force Base because they overlap. And there's a policy going into effect that there's gonna be better communication between the two. There's also gonna be in the future UAV activity out of here, which will encompass aircraft taken out of here, UAVs, proceeding out towards Victorville, from Victorville, Lake Arrowhead, Big Bear, Banning, and back here. So at one altitude will be 8,500 feet, the second altitude inbound will be 9,500 feet, but there's also gonna be a route that they're analyzing going from Big Bear direct to March. So when that comes out and it's published, we'll get back with you on that.
Bob, speaking of which, I saw ISR better ground on the ramp today. Is that part of that program there?
I have no idea.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes. No more predators, no more reapers.
Let's see, and just real quick, try to use the same route to and from the area that you're going into, is your favorite training area, unless Randy, John Garrett, or Chris tell you different. Maneuvers flown at odd altitudes, such as 1150 feet rather than 1200 feet. Take an observer. That's, I don't know, I can't overemphasize it. Somebody suggested to put a share a flight list up on the wall, and I think I'm gonna do that. Somebody could write down, you know, hey, I'm looking for somebody to just fly safety with, or I'm flying the airplane as pilot PIC, and I'd like somebody to come with me. Something to that effect. I used to fly with a guy that used to be in the club all the time. I used to fly as his safety pilot. He used to be my safety pilot. And when we flew BFR, we used to just always watch out, you know, what was going on around us. It's always good to have that. If you were carrying passengers or somebody like that, you know, depending on their level of flying, you can always tell them to keep their eyes open. Even if there's just the sun shining off another airplane and flashing, they can tell you there's something over there. Let's see. Oh yeah, but even if we're working with a tower, as you saw with those collisions, how they ended up colliding with each other even though they were under ATC control. And always do what ATC tells you. Let's see, I already talked about the, that's it.
Got one other thing right now, just real quick. Runway 30 and 12 is closed through the end of, till Saturday. And that's because there's a hot cargo sitting out on Charlie. So everything will be off of runway 32 and 14. The easiest way to do that is go out, request taxi Delta with a back taxi on 32, take off to the north.
I do have up here laying on the table, not a lot, but I got a few on-site, internet sites that you can go to on prevention of mid-air collisions. This came out of the little booklet that Wayne Safety produces on mid-air collisions and how to avoid them. And some of these sites are really, really good. Some of them I've been in, and boy, I'll tell you, they're really neat. There's one site here that gives the whole United States, and it tells you where there were near misses and where there was actual collisions. It also tells you where all the airports are, and it also tells you where the military bases are. So, if you want to get one, I got it right up here. Okay, unless there's other questions or anything like that.
What's the club's plan for getting our aircraft ADS-B compliant? That's a big mid-air capability.
Our first two are purchased this quarter.
It's gonna be in or out.
It's gonna be out on.
The problem is, already NBAA and the FAA are saying that while there's enough hardware out there, we're going to run out of maintenance shop space to get airplanes converted, and you're going to have airplanes grounded because they're not
No, we're not.
ADS-B capable
No, we're not.
if you don't get it done in time. And right now, the FAA's got a $500 rebate program.
They've come down, it's coming, yeah, they've applied that. That it's gonna be, from what I understand and what I've researched, it's one rebate per individual. So what can the Aero Club get as one individual?
I don't know, but I mean, it's,
But they're already in there. So we've already, the PR has gone out, and we get the first two aircraft will be done this quarter.
great.
And what we plan on doing is doing 2 aircraft a quarter. So to spread it out for cost,
Yep.
initially it was $7,500, we're down to less than $3,000 per unit now. Some of those are coming down even further. So there's 2 of them that, the one I've researched is Stratus. More interested in Stratus than Trig. Trig has got one that's a little bit cheaper, but it's supposed to be very, very good. And they all will be ADS-B out.
No, yeah,
No, because we don't have the GPSs.
understand. Okay, but that,
So
Better than
they'll be
nothing.
compliant,
Yeah.
be compliant. And they'll be basically almost plug and play.
okay.
So our wiring requirements are gonna be very, very, very small.
I was just gonna say, we got 3 new clearing officials, Perry Davis, Chris Link, and Randy Zahn, helping us out with the clearing official program. We lost a couple guys due to deployments, and Fred's not feeling up to it anymore, so it's kind of an even trade. But anyone else interested in helping out with clearing official, we need help there too. Thank you.
And Brandon, I need to see you.
Right here.